My neighbor pointed at the pickup in my driveway last month and actually laughed. Faded paint, a little surface rust on the rocker, an odometer that rolled past 240,000 miles back when gas was cheap. Then I told him what I paid for it and what it'll still be doing long after his shiny 3-year-old lease return is picked apart in a salvage yard. He stopped laughing. 22 years turning wrenches taught me one thing. The trucks nobody wants are usually the ones that refuse to die. Here are 3 of them. Everybody chases the clean, low-mile, one-owner truck with the big touchscreen and the fresh warranty. Meanwhile, the actual gold mines sit on the back row of the lot, marked down every week because a buyer took one look at the year on the windshield and kept walking. Too old. That's the phrase. I hear it constantly. And every time somebody says it about one of these 3 trucks, a mechanic somewhere quietly buys it for himself. Because too old on these platforms doesn't mean worn out. It means the engineering peaked before the accountants and the emissions guys got involved, and it means the depreciation already happened on somebody else's dime. Today I'm counting down 3 pickups the market treats like they're finished. Trucks that will run to 500,000 miles and beyond on nothing exotic. I'm saving the best for last, because number 1 is a truck that has been documented past 1 million miles with the original engine still making power. Let's get into it. Number 3, the 1999 to 2006 Chevrolet Silverado 1500 with the 5.3-liter Vortec FEV 8. This is the truck I point people to when they've got 10 grand. They need something that starts every morning, and they don't want a science project. The engine under that hood, the LM7, is one of the most quietly unkillable V8s General Motors ever built. And hardly anybody talks about it because it's not fast, it's not fancy, and there are millions of them. That's exactly why it's a bargain. Let me tell you about a kid who came into my shop last spring. Early 20s, first real job, about $8,000 saved. He was dead set on a high-mileage German sedan because it looked expensive. I asked him what he actually needed. Get to work, haul stuff for his side hustle, not go broke. I told him to forget the German car and go find a mid-2000s Silverado with the 5.3. He found a 2005 with 189,000 miles for $7,400. That was 14 months ago. Total spent on repairs since: a set of plugs, 1 ignition coil, and an intake gasket. Around $300, and he did the plugs himself in my parking lot while I supervised with a coffee. Here's why the 5.3 Vortec earns this spot. It's part of GM's Gen 3 small block family, the same architecture as the LS engines everyone worships in the performance world. Cast iron block, aluminum heads, a pushrod design so simple it's almost boring. No turbo to blow, no timing belt to snap. It uses a timing chain, low-end torque comes on early, and the whole thing was engineered for weight-carrying durability rather than headline horsepower. Owners routinely take these to 200,000 and 300,000 miles on the original bottom end. I've personally seen a 1999 Sierra clear 350,000 with nothing but water pumps and maintenance, and its owner drives it across the state without a second thought. The block is nearly indestructible. When these engines do act up, it's almost never the block or the heads, it's the cheap stuff around them. So if you go shopping, here's your inspection checklist, and this matters. First, target the 1999 through 2006 model years specifically. In 2007, GM introduced active fuel management, cylinder deactivation, and that system brought lifter failures and oil consumption that the earlier LM7 simply doesn't have. The older, dumber engine is the more reliable one. Let that sink in. Second, Listen at cold start. A little piston slap that quiets as it warms up is common on early blocks and generally harmless, but a persistent knock is your cue to walk. Third, check the intake manifold gasket area for coolant seepage and pull the plugs if you can. These composite gaskets get brittle with age and can leak, causing misfires and rough starts. It's a cheap fix, but use it to negotiate. Fourth, and this is the real one, the weak link on these trucks is the 4L60E transmission, not the engine. Get the truck to operating temperature, run it through the gears, and feel for slipping or a harsh 1 to 2 shift. A rebuild runs about $1,800 to $2,500. If the trans is tired, that's not a deal breaker. It's a bargaining chip. Who should buy this truck? Anybody who wants a dependable full-size hauler for under $11,000 with the cheapest parts availability on the planet. Every auto parts store in America stocks everything this truck needs, and half the guys at the counter have owned one. Who should skip it? If you want modern fuel economy or a quiet car-like ride, this isn't it. It's an old truck and it drives like one. And if you need to tow heavy regularly, the half-ton 5.3 will do it, but it'll drink fuel doing it. For that, you want number 2. Number 2, the Dodge Ram 2500 with the 5.9-liter Cummins diesel. This is where the 500,000-mile gold mine stops being a slogan and becomes documented fact. There's an old line in the diesel world about these trucks. It's a 1,000,000-mile engine surrounded by a 50,000-mile truck. And that's the honest truth. The Cummins B-Series inline 6 doesn't just survive, it embarrasses the odometer. The engine will comfortably outlast the body, the interior, the suspension, and probably you. I had a customer, a landscaper, bring me a 2001 Ram 2500 a few years back, convinced the engine was on its last legs at 310,000 miles because it was getting up there. I did a compression test and a full inspection. That engine was healthier than trucks in my bay with a third of the miles. I told him the truck around it needed ball joints and a brake overhaul. But the Cummins itself? Keep changing the oil and it'll bury you. He's still driving it. Let me explain what makes this engine a legend, because the details matter. The 5.9 Cummins came in 2 main flavors in these trucks. From 1994 to 1998, you get the 12-valve, the 6BT, which is about as mechanically pure as a modern diesel gets. Fully mechanical Bosch fuel system, no computer telling it what to do. People call it the one-wire diesel because once it's running, it barely needs electricity at all. Cast iron block, cast iron head, forged steel crankshaft riding on 7 main bearings and 6 head bolts per cylinder, which is why these things almost never blow a head gasket even when people crank the fueling way up. Then, from mid-1998 to 2007, you get the 24-valve ISB, more refined, with more power and electronic injection. Both are famous for reliability. Both have crossed 500,000 miles in stock form more times than anyone can count. To give you a sense of the ceiling here, there's a documented 2000 Ram 3500 with a 5.9 that its owner drove past 2.6 million miles, delivering RVs, averaging around 700 miles a day. That's not a typo, millions with an M. But this is the truck where an inspection checklist can save you thousands because the failure points are specific and known. So write these down. First, the killer dowel pin, or KDP, a steel pin behind the timing cover on 12-valve and early 24-valve engines that can back out and drop into the timing gears with catastrophic results. It's a cheap preventative fix. Ask the seller directly whether it's been done, and if they look at you blankly, budget for it. Second, On the 24-valve trucks, the VP44 injection pump is the known weak point and can be an expensive replacement, so on those, make sure it runs clean with no dead pedal hesitation. Third, always see the truck cold start. Show up early. A worn diesel struggles to fire on a cold morning, and a sketchy seller will warm it up before you arrive to hide exactly that. If it fires right up cold with a healthy clatter and clean exhaust, that's a great sign. Fourth, this engine outlives the truck, so inspect the truck. Crawl underneath and check the frame rails, cab corners, bedsides, and fuel tank straps for rust, and go through the front-end joints. On a Cummins Ram, the chassis is what wears out, not the power plant. Now let's talk money, because this is where it gets fun. These aren't priced like the legends they are. A 1999 2500 Cummins with 234,000 miles recently listed for around $14,600. A 2006 with 327,000 miles, an engine that's barely broken in by Cummins standards, listed for right around $6,000. There are clean lower mileage examples floating between 8 and 15 grand, depending on condition and how hard people have modified them. You are buying an engine that can genuinely see 500,000 miles for the price of a used economy car. Who should buy this truck? Anyone who tows, hauls, or just wants a work truck that will still be a work truck in 20 years. If you pull a trailer regularly, nothing on this list touches the torque and longevity of the Cummins. Who should skip it? If this is your only vehicle and you don't tow. A diesel is overkill. The fuel system service, the injectors, the glow plug and grid heater stuff all cost more than a gas engine when they eventually come due. And if you can't do basic wrenching or don't have a diesel-friendly shop nearby, some of these repairs get pricey fast. But treat it right, and this is the closest thing to an immortal truck that Detroit ever bolted together. Real quick, if straight talk like this is useful to you, hit subscribe. I put out videos on exactly this stuff. The vehicles dealers push versus the ones that actually make financial sense, and the high mileage machines that have earned their reputation in the shop. It genuinely helps the channel, and it's free. Now, number one, and this is the one I'd buy tomorrow. Number one, the first generation Toyota Tundra 2000 to 2006 with the 4.7-liter V8. The engine Toyota engineers gave the internal name 2UZFE. If the Cummins is the workhorse legend, this is the reliability legend, full stop. This is the truck that has been publicly documented past 1 million miles with its original engine still making nearly factory power. Not, I heard about one. Documented, torn down, and inspected by Toyota's own people. And most buyers walk right past these because a first-generation Tundra is smaller than a modern half-ton and the styling looks dated. Their loss is your gold mine. Let me tell you about the conversation that made me a believer, because I pushed back on it too once. Years ago, an older gentleman brought his 2004 Tundra in, and it had just crossed 280,000 miles. He wanted me to go through it top to bottom because he was planning to keep it another decade. I remember thinking, another decade on a truck already at 280,000? I put it on the lift, expecting to write him a scary estimate. Suspension was tired, sure, brakes needed doing, but the engine? Bone dry, strong compression, ran like a sewing machine. I called a buddy over just to listen to it idle. That was the day I stopped doubting these trucks. That customer is real, and so is the fact that these engines routinely see 400,000 and 500,000 miles on the original internals. Enthusiast forums are full of verified examples. Here's the engineering, and it's beautiful in how unglamorous it is. The 2UZFE is a 4.7-liter V8, And unlike its aluminum block Lexus cousins, Toyota built this one with a cast iron block specifically for truck duty. Forged steel crankshaft, naturally aspirated, no turbo to fail. Tuned for low-end torque instead of chasing a big horsepower number, and paired with an oversized cooling system because Toyota's engineers understood that heat is what actually kills engines. It's not exciting on paper, it just refuses to wear out. This is the same engine family that powered the legendary 100 Series Land Cruiser, the 4th generation 4Runner, and the Sequoia, the vehicles people literally drive across continents. When you buy a 1st generation Tundra, you're buying a Land Cruiser's heart in a work truck body that nobody's bidding up. The most famous example is a Tundra that a driver named Victor Shepard ran past 1 million miles hauling heavy equipment. When Toyota brought that truck back and pulled the engine apart, they found the cylinder walls still showed their original cross-hatching, and the internals had shockingly little wear after 1 million miles. His secret wasn't magic, it was religious oil changes, roughly every 5,000 miles for the life of the truck. That's the whole trick. And he's not even the only one. A second owner took another 2007 Tundra to the 1 million mile mark, and there are 2 UZ-powered rigs all over the forums well past 500,000. So here's your buying checklist, and there's one item on here that's more important than all the others. First, the timing belt. This is the one thing people forget. The 2UZ uses a timing belt, not a chain, and it needs to be replaced roughly every 90,000 miles or so. Ask for records. If the seller can't prove when it was last done, budget to do it immediately and do the water pump at the same time since the labor overlaps. Miss this, and it's the one way to hurt an otherwise indestructible engine. Second, and this is critical on these specific trucks, inspect the frame for rust. Toyota had a serious frame corrosion issue on early Tundras and ran a recall and buyback program over it. Get under the truck and look hard at the frame rails, especially on any truck that lived where they salt the roads. A rusty frame can total an otherwise perfect truck, so this single check can save you from a very expensive mistake. Third, confirm the 4-wheel drive engages and disengages cleanly if it's a 4-wheel drive model, and check for any front differential clunk. Fourth, look at how the bed and the driver's seat wore. On that famous 1 million mile truck, the bed was the only part showing real fatigue. A trashed bed with a clean drivetrain just means it worked for a living. A trashed interior on low miles tells you the owner didn't care, and that's a different story. Now the money, and this is why I saved it for last. A clean 2006 Tundra SR5 with around 112,000 miles recently sat on a lot for about $13,000. Higher mileage work truck examples can be had for less. The catch, and it's a good problem to have catch, is that the market is finally waking up. Pristine, low-mileage first-generation Tundras are starting to get collectible, with the nicest examples trading in the low 30s. So the window on these as a secret is closing. But for a solid, honest Tundra with between 150,000 and 250,000 miles that will run to 500,000 with basic care, you are still buying it for a fraction of what its longevity is worth. That is the definition of a gold mine. Who should buy this truck? Anyone who wants the single most reliable pickup on this entire list and is willing to accept an older school, slightly smaller truck to get it. If your goal is to buy one truck and drive it into the ground and never actually reach the ground, this is the one. Who should skip it? If you need the towing capacity and interior room of a modern full-size, the first-generation Tundra is smaller than what you're picturing, and the fuel economy is nothing special. And if you're shopping in the Salt Belt, be extra ruthless about that frame inspection or walk away entirely. But find a clean one. Keep that timing belt fresh and the oil changed, and you will own the last truck you ever need to buy. So there they are. 3 pickups the market wrote off for being too old, and every one of them a documented, proven, 500,000-mile machine. The 5.3 Vortex Silverado, the cheap, everywhere, unkillable workhorse that costs less to run than almost anything on 4 wheels. The 5.9 Cummins Ram, an engine so overbuilt, the truck rusts away from around it while the motor's still grinning. And the first-generation Toyota Tundra, a Land Cruiser's engine hiding in a work truck with a real million-mile track record and a price tag that hasn't fully caught up yet. Here's the thing nobody on a dealer lot will tell you. Too old is a marketing word. It's designed to move you off the paid-off, proven, boring truck and on to something new with a payment attached. But an engine doesn't know what year is printed on the title. It knows whether the oil got changed. Next time a salesman steers you away from a high-mileage truck like these 3 and toward a fancy lease return, you'll know exactly what he's protecting, and it isn't your wallet. If you want to see the high-mileage vehicles that have earned genuine respect in my shop, the ones that just would not die, with the numbers to back it up, I've got a whole video on that, and it's right here. Hit subscribe if this helped, and I'll keep giving you the truth the dealership won't. Take care of the truck, and it'll take care of you. Take it or leave it. I'll see you in the next one.